Hello and welcome to this training guide on how to report to the United Nations CEDAW Committee on the Convention of all forms of discrimination against women. In 1967, the representatives of the member countries of the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, or CSW, wrote a document to guide countries in the world on how to deal with discrimination against women. This later became a declaration, but women's groups wanted the declaration made a legally binding tool. So in 1979, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the declaration and made it a convention. In 1981, CEDAW came into force. Today, people still ask, why women need a separate treaty?
But women's human rights are offended in different ways from those of men. It's one thing to give women the right to vote, but there are many areas where she does not have equality. Take marriage and the family relations, that is the private sphere of a woman's life. There are many countries still who do not have equal rights to divorce, to care of their children following divorce, the right to agree to whom they will marry.
When a country signs the convention, it must set up policies, laws, and systems to ensure women are treated fairly. This is the implementation process. 1 year after the signing of CEDAW, your government is legally required to report to the committee on how it intends to implement the articles in the convention or what it has done since it ratified it. Periodic or subsequent reports are then done 4 years after that. 12 countries in the Pacific have ratified the convention. 4 have reported their progress to the CEDAW committee. These are Fiji in 2002, Samoa in 2005, Vanuatu and the Cook Islands in 2007. Preparing the CEDAW report can be a challenging task, and it can cost a lot of money. In putting the state report together, you must consider these factors. The development of a report writing proposal. Identify which CEDAW session to report to. Who will be in charge of putting the report together? Who will write the report? You can choose one person or a team to write your report. These people must understand gender issues and the situation of women in your country. Your report should contain data or statistics, research and analyses. The CEDAW committee has strict guidelines on the structure and content of the initial and periodic state reports. So, divide your report in 2 parts. Part 1 should have details on the land and the people, general background information. It should contain the laws in your country that protect and uphold human rights and how people have been educated and made aware of these rights and freedoms. Part 2 of your report should have examples of specific activities that meet the requirement of each article under CEDAW. This is done separately, article by article. It must include legislative, judicial, and administrative actions taken on since your government ratified CEDAW. It should differentiate between development plans put into action and proposals or bills. Mention problems in your country that delay or prevent the treaty from being implemented. If there are some articles that are not complied with or followed, reflect this in the report and why it is not followed. Refer to the work carried out by NGOs and women's organisations. The report should have sex disaggregated or separated data and an analysis of the legal instruments adopted and the impact they have on the economic, political and social lives of women. This means explaining how do women really live in your country, especially in comparison to men. If your government had signed the treaty with reservations, say this in the report and explain the reasons why it took this stand. Once you've completed the state report, the responsible ministry must inform UNDAW that the report is ready. Your report should be sent 6 weeks before the session. When Samoa was preparing to report before the committee, the government of Samoa requested UNIFEM to help the delegation. A committee was formed to help the Samoan delegation, and the first mock session was born. In 2006, Vanuatu was given a run through its report by another mock committee. Let's take a look at the mock sessions in Vanuatu. Welcome to the 38th session of the United Nations CEDAW hearings. After her presentation, the members of the committee will be required to ask questions of the delegation, article by article, and at which time the members of the delegation will be asked to provide responses to the questions.
It is also noted in your responses that there is no coordinated approach in creating awareness among women about access to loans and credit opportunities. What measures are being taken to ensure that there is coordination, not only within the government, but also outside of government?
That with the rural lending scheme that the National Bank are providing, they do provide community awareness because they have to get consent from community authorities to implement the program. So that in itself is providing awareness on credit facilities to rural areas.
Cook Islands was also given a run-through of its submission with a mock session which was led by CEDAW committee member Hae-Soo Shin of Korea. Let's look at the mock session in the Cook Islands.
We will examine today the initial report of the Cook Islands. As decided by the rules of procedure, there will be oral presentation by the head of the delegation for 30 minutes maximum. Then questions will be asked by the experts, article by article, except Articles 1 and 2, 7 and 8, 15 and 16 put together. After a round of questions by experts, then the delegation will be asked to answer those questions.
A second reservation to CEDAW entered by my government states that
after the submissions, the UN CEDAW committee asks delegates to clarify or expand on some issues under each article.
I now turn the floor to the experts for their questions regarding Articles 1 and 2. When the delegation answers to these questions, you may consolidate the questions, and then group them and try to answer. And also, Mr. Head of Delegation, you may not answer all those questions yourself. You may relegate to other members of the delegation to answer particular aspects of the questions.
My question is, whilst you are working on legislation, what policies and programs have you established to protect women from de facto discriminatory practices or institutionalized practices that disadvantage women?
Article 1 defines discrimination.
There's a prohibition on discrimination, but then there's not a definition of what discrimination entails, such as is contained in Article 1 of CEDAW. My question for the delegation is there any intention to change this, to introduce a definition of discrimination into Vanuatu law, preferably, of course, through constitutional amendment?
Article 2 looks at policy measures. Article 3, the guarantee of basic human rights and fundamental freedoms. Article 4 considers special measures, while Article 5 focuses on sex role stereotyping and prejudice. Commercial sex workers are covered in Article 6. Article 7 covers political and public life, Article 8, representation, and Article 9 on nationality. Article 10 looks at the education of women and girls.
In regards to Article 10, I would request the state delegation from Vanuatu if you could specify whether budgetary allocations has been set aside for the implementation of the Gender Equity in Education Policy and Action Plan 2005 to 2015.
Article 11 is on employment and Article 12 on health. Article 13 looks at the economic and social benefits of women, while Article 14 covers the development of women in rural settings.
I'm interested to know whether there's any moves afoot, as it were, to make the national crest, which perhaps a more gender equitable one.
Article 15 covers women's equal rights before the law, and Article 16, their rights in family law. Be honest and open in your discussions.
The questions that are coming out are really helping us to sort of be better prepared for what is in what we will experience in New York in May.
The government hearings are open. Anybody can attend, and a lot of other countries will attend your hearings. And there will be state delegations, NGOs from other countries, your NGO delegation, maybe. Your responses generally were too broad. Your responses need to be more specific to the question. And one word was made by the experts, which is to keep it short and simple, and maybe provide an example from your state report. In some of the controversial issues, such as abortion and bride price, the delegation became a little bit defensive, and that's natural. But now you're seasoned. When you're in New York, you won't be defensive. And I understand, because we're defensive about a lot of our cultural identity issues as well. Better to say, yes, we recognize that. We are not yet ready to take that path. We are not ready to take that path at the moment. The presence of non-governmental organisations at the CEDAW committee session is a legitimate part of the process. The NGO session is a closed session. NGOs are given 10 minutes before the committee, while the state delegation has one whole day to report and answer questions from the 23 experts. The NGO Shadow Report addresses what government is doing or not doing on the convention. If you're representing NGOs, then consult all NGOs involved in women's rights and are interested in CEDAW. The delegates' responsibility should be based on their area of interest. It would be good if one NGO person can coordinate and collect sectoral reports. Put all these in one shadow report. Another consultation should be done to refine, modify, or debate the shadow report. Try and send your report to international NGO organisations like IRO, the International Women's Rights Action Watch, that are willing to assist and distribute the report to CEDAW committee members. After this, you can now make a submission in Geneva. What should a shadow report contain? First, a critical analysis. Be honest and open in your discussions. If you are criticising the state report, point out the weaknesses rather than being openly hostile to the government. Be polite. Support your criticisms with facts, data, statistics and copies of text or documents to support your argument.
Honoured members of the committee, may I take this opportunity to first resist our sincere word of thanks and gratitude for allowing the NGO to present its CEDAW report before you today. Although the government has shown commitment to the health issues by increasing the Ministry of Health budget, we would like to state that the health service delivery to the people of Vanuatu is still an issue.
When the reporting is complete, the committee will draft its concluding comments. The concluding comments will include discussions, a summary of what experts thought your presentation meant, and questions they felt were not answered, and recommendations on what they believe should be done when implementing CEDAW. These comments can be referred to again when you next appear before the committee to submit a subsequent or periodic report.
There is commitment from the part of government because the fact that they are having this mock CEDAW committee is a sign of commitment. So from there, they can start to really bring in many more measures in collaboration with NGOs that are here.
We hope this training video has helped you understand the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and in ratifying the Convention, implementing procedures and requirements, and in reporting your country's progress in recognising the rights of Pacific women. You can use this book, the CEDAW Roadmap, which is available with UNDP or the Pacific Regional Rights Resource Team to clarify doubts you may have, or contact UNIFEM Pacific to guide you, especially in tapping technical assistance within the region. We hope you have found this training guide resourceful. Thank you and goodbye.